Alrighty, so before we get into the video, I wanted to briefly mention last week's video, as some seem to be a bit angry at the video, as I now see some of the flaws, one being the title, as it really wasn't about which is better. The purpose of the video was to compare the only similarity I could find between these three movies, which, mind you, have been compared to very often, and why they shouldn't be compared to, and why one, in my opinion, does it better than the other. That was it. And there's more I could go into, but I'd rather move on. So, now on with the vid! So, this last weekend I came back from PAX West, which was actually amazing. Video on that next weekend. But while I was with my dad in town, we decided that night afterwards to go see a movie. At this point, we have already seen Incredibles, Mission Impossible, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. But we really then are we really doing this? Just no, stop. But we did find one movie showing that we haven't seen, which was Christopher Robin. Not thinking too much about it, we went to see it thinking it would just be alright. And holy crap, why isn't anyone talking about this movie? Like, what the? Okay, I could sit here and gush about every blockbuster coming out like everyone else's, but no. I'm gonna talk about a movie no one else is. Yeah, this one about the frickin' bear. After seeing the mediocre reviews about this movie, I was less than excited to see it, which is why after coming out of that theater, I'm honestly shocked. Now, it isn't the most amazing film in the world, as I can already see some of the flaws, but the flaws in the movie mostly stem from the predictable ending. You kinda knew what was gonna happen next. Not only that, but with the ending, it was also very rushed as the movie just suddenly ended. I mean, aside from those things, maybe a couple other little nitpicky things, I love this movie. And no, I'm not really a Winnie the Pooh fan. It's not a childhood thing, but this movie really brought me back to my childhood. And maybe this movie just spoke to me on a more personal level, as the message about doing nothing leads to something really felt sweet and lighthearted. But some things that really saved the movie from being otherwise meh were two things: the animation and Ian McGregor's performance. To start off, the animation of the characters was so beautifully done, as you could almost feel the fabric and stitches on these characters. And when Winnie was eating the honey, you could almost feel the stickiness dripping from his paws and fur. For the first time, it felt like these animated characters could really be in this world. It never once felt like out of place, like in... Oh god, okay, we're just never gonna show that movie again. But the first comparison I could compare it to was like Paddington, with its lighthearted message and tone throughout the movie. Not only that, but I think this movie exceeds actually over Paddington in one thing: the performance from Ian McGregor. Every interaction with him and Winnie felt so personal and real, and unlike most movies with the kid now an adult and a snob who only cares about his work, this movie did something different. The adult character never betrayed the younger character. What do I mean? Well, even with the character mainly caring about his business, he still felt like Christopher Robin. There was never a moment where he wasn't himself. He was still him, but just much older now. And we see this within the end of the first act, when Winnie the Pooh shows himself to Christopher Robin. Even with some shock at first, Christopher still remembers Pooh. There's never a moment where he tries to hit himself in the head or something cheesy. We skip that and get straight to what's important: the two characters' interaction, and how Pooh teaches Christopher a lesson unintentionally. But my favorite part of the movie is midway through the second act, when they enter 100 Acre Woods with Pooh looking for his friends. There's a lot of moments here that aren't just meant for a kid's movie. It really tries to tell a thought-provoking message, but without beating you over the head with it. An example of this is when Christopher has finally had enough and gets mad at Pooh for giving the wrong directions. Christopher gets mad and Winnie decides to go away but disappears. Christopher freaks out and spends time looking for him, while saying the entire time he doesn't have time for this and needs to go back. But even with him constantly saying he needs to get back, he needs to go back to work, he never stops looking for Pooh. Not once. And proves that he is still himself. Not only with this scene, but with Winnie the Pooh constantly asking Christopher questions about his work, it makes the audience think. The movie never tells you work is bad, but instead shows or gives you a different perspective. And finally, with a very charismatic performance from Ian McGregor, we find ourselves near the end with the second act, as Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin sit near their tree and have a conversation. It's a great moment, and it actually looks like it was made by a filmmaker, not a corporation. Alright, there's actually a lot more I could talk about in this movie, and I know this video may seem short, but I honestly really recommend watching this film. It may not be the best film in the world, and the third act may be rushed at times, but the characters and the message it presents are way better than it needs to be. Again, I could go on about this film, but honestly, I recommend just going to check it out. And even though the third act and the finale aren't as good as other movies, I was surprised by this movie, and honestly, I recommend it to anyone else. And it proves why Winnie the Pooh is still a classic character to be beloved. Alright, I'm going off script here for a second, because tomorrow we're going to be releasing the first video of the skits, and I'm really excited, so be there tomorrow. I know this video is really short. I didn't have really much time to really get in depth with Winnie the Pooh. I mean, it's not really a movie I can go super in depth with, but it was just a good movie that I really enjoyed and I think is a little bit underrated. So if you actually want me to go more into the film, I can do that. If you guys really actually want me to go in depth into it, I'll have to go see it a second time, as I've only seen it once. But if you want me to go see it a second time, let me know and I'll actually go more in depth into Winnie the Pooh. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye everyone!